All right, welcome and good morning and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Birdview's weekly workshop. Our weekly workshops take place every Tuesday at 1 p.m. EST and 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, where we cover a different topic each week. You can register for our weekly workshops and other events through our website at birdviewpsa.com/events. We post a list of all of our topics in advance, so you have the option to sign up for multiple sessions at once. I do encourage you to join as many sessions as possible, whether it is as a refresher or to learn tips and tricks on how to make the most of Birdview for your project management needs. Each session, we start with a demo on the topic that we are covering, and then allocate the last 10 minutes to go over any questions that you may have. So please feel free to send in your questions in the Q&A chat box. Our topic today is on guest users and how to effectively collaborate with them. So the agenda for today is we are going to review how to add guest users, the permissions that the guest users have, as well as their capabilities. And then as mentioned before, we will cover any questions that you may have. And then towards the end of the session, I will quickly go over any upcoming webinars that we have in future. So guest users are free licenses that are available to all the clients. The clients can use as many guest users as they want because they're free, as well as they're unlimited. We have a very large limit to how many people, how many guest users can be added. So the very first thing we're going to look at here is, as an administrator, how you can add guest users, right? So the very first thing we're going to look at is company settings here. So guest users, similar to other users, can be added at the user level permissions. So you can see that anytime you have licenses, they're going to be in different buckets. So you can have regular licenses, you can have contributor licenses, and then you'll always see guest license buckets here. To add a guest user, simply click on Add User and enter their email, full name, and any other options that you want. So you can preset a password, or you can allow the system to generate the password. And you can simply click Invite the user. Now, the question is, who should you add as a guest user? So it really depends on the nature of your business and the group, right? So guest users can be anywhere from very, very short-term employees, contract employees, whether they're there for 1 week, 1 month, and so. Or you can have guest users as an external stakeholder, whether it is a client that you're working with and you want to share project updates with them. You can add them as a guest user. You can also add any contractors, as an example, as guest users as well. But do note that these users have very, very limited access to the system. You'll notice if I go into access level here, you can see all different types of access levels except from guest users. Why is that? The reason being, guest users are, the permissions for guest users are predetermined by the Birdview group. So we really take control over what guest users can and cannot do. And even as an administrator, you do not have the ability to modify a guest user access. Hence, you will not see them in the access level list here. So to quickly review what guest users can or cannot do, okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is pull up a guest user profile here. So this is a guest user profile that I've created for the demo, for the purposes of this demo. You will notice that the guest user have access to anything that is specified in the company settings for guest users to see, right? So for example, here you can see custom forms. And as long as you have the permission in the company's, in the custom forms section to share these forms with the guest users, they can do that. You can assign activities to a guest user. For example, as I had mentioned before, that if let's say you have a very short-term contract employee and you want them to work on certain tasks, you can assign to them and they will be able to see the list in the My Assignments sections, which is basically their hub of all the projects or all the assignments that they have been assigned to. They can also see project snapshots. And again, project snapshots, they can see it if the permission has been given to the guest user. The other thing they can do is they can go into My Settings and define the kind of notifications. They can set notifications as do send me, or they can't send the notifications. In advance, they can just pick the language that they want to do. And again, in the profile, they can, set emails and passwords here. So let's take a look at a project, okay? So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to go here and let's do, perfect, I have my guest user here. So I have a project that I've created for a guest user, and I've assigned 3 things. I've assigned a task to a guest user, I have assigned an issue to the guest user, as well as a request, right? So notice if I click on the details, I can see estimated hours, the period, who the assignees are, and any other information that is set in here, okay? Let's take a look at the issue, same thing, and a request, same thing. Now, I can see all the details here as a project owner, as an administrator, or even a regular collaborator who has been assigned to this project or this activity, right? Now, if I go back into the guest user profile and I click on the project detail here, notice the only things that I can see is that the activity is a task, the priority is medium, and the date range in which this task is supposed to be completed. Notice that there's nowhere in here that you can see the assignees. So they have no visibility on the assignees. They don't have visibility on any extra details that were reflected up here. As well as you cannot log times, right? So as a guest user, you're not able to log time. Hence, they are not going to show up in your resources module if you have access to that. So that is one limitation for a guest user. Now, let's take a look at what the guest users can do, right? So again, as I mentioned before, guest users have the access to the guest portal, which is basically My Assignments page, and they can see all the activities. They can see the details of their tasks, issues, or requests in here. They can also add messages. So I'm going to say demo message, and I'm going to hit send. I can add a file from my computer. And I'm just going to make sure that I have it correct. I'm just going to bring it here, and let's do a PDF. So let's just say, perpetual customer as an example, right? So I can send, I can add this file and I can hit send. Notice that you have the add mention icon here. You can add mentions. However, as a guest user, you're only limited to add mentions to yourself. You cannot mention anybody else because you are not able to see any of the assignees that are assigned to the particular task, right? So if you don't have the visibility on the assignees, you don't have the visibility on who you can mention because you don't have access to that information. So @rate function is probably not something that you will use, or if let's say you do want to use in communication, because in this message board, you can see all the communication that is happening between different user groups. So now that I've added a file as well as a demo message, let's take a look at how it's going to show up on your end, okay? So here, if I go into task 1, I can see these messages have been added as well as the file. So as an assignee, I can view this information. Now, let's say I'm going to, as a one of the users or one of the assignees, I'm going to add a message specifically for my guest user. And I'm going to say replying to demo message. And I'll say send. Okay. You will see that information live here that I've been mentioned, and the message has appeared here. So you can, collaborate together. You can also see any of the custom fields associated with the activity, provided that they are there. And once you have completed working on a certain project, let's say in this case, we have completed task 1, I can say I am done. That's as far as you can go in terms of defining or adding information on if this task has been completed from your end or not. Okay, so the moment I clicked that I am done, notice how this activity has been moved from my active assignments list, right? Now that activity has been moved into completed. So it says GUP1 task has been completed and it's here. If, let's say, you accidentally hit I am done and you want to bring it back, simply click resume work. And this activity is going to be moved back into your active My Assignments list. Now, let's share a project snapshot here, okay? So a project snapshot can be captured by clicking on the 3 ellipses and capture project snapshot here. So in here, we're going to say demo project snapshot and create. So first, we want to make sure that it is created. Now, to look at the project snapshot, I'm going to click on the 3 ellipses and select project snapshots and click on the demo project snapshot and 3 ellipses here and say share with guest. So the moment I click here, you will notice that it gives you a list, like a dialog box. Either you can invite a user by an email, or you can add a guest user from the list, right? So in this case, I'm going to select Mishna Test, click outside, and say apply. The moment I said apply, I will come back into my guest portal, click on the project snapshot, and voila, you have the demo project snapshot available here. So when you click on it, a new screen will appear, a new tab, and here you can see this is the project, and these are the activities that are within this project. So again, if let's say you are managing projects for different clients, and this client requires you to submit, like a project status, project update, you can potentially either add them as a guest user and they can have access to this report, or you can simply download it and send it to your clients, right? But this way, you don't have to keep capturing, keep emailing them separately. The moment you capture it and share it with the guest user, they will have access to it so they can review the information at their own leisure. Now let's talk about custom forms. So custom forms can be accessed from this menu here. And let's say I have a project intake custom form, right? And I'm going to click on edit, because until and unless I select this permission here that allow guest users to access the form, they will not be able to see it, right? So for example, project intake form test has been allowed to be viewed or accessed by guest users. Let's pick another one. Let's say Sprint as an example. So Sprint, I'm going to say allow guest users and save changes. So the moment I say that, I'll bring it here, custom forms. Now I have Sprint and project intake custom form here. As long as you have access to this custom form, you are able to add records to it, right? So as a guest user, I can add any type of record that has been available to me. But once you do, so let's say we're going to say testing project creation. Project owner is, let's say, Mishna in this case, test. Target date is going to be our November 1st. End date, let's say, November 10th. SharePoint link, this is just a custom field that I had added in here, but we're going to leave it blank just for now and say save. So now you can see that as a guest user, I can identify the number of records that I have submitted, the number of requests or records that I've submitted here. When I click, you can see project details or the field details. However, unlike a administrator, I don't have the capacity or capability to make any edits to it. Once the request is submitted, it is submitted. No edits can be done. So this way, let's say your guest user can keep a track of how many requests they have submitted in each of the custom forms that is available to them. All right, so we have covered custom forms, project snapshots, and let's go into, sorry. Nope, that is one. All right. So here you can see if there's any draft or archived projects that custom forms that have been shared with the guest user. All right, so let's go back into my assignments, and let's do a quick review. If I click on the guest user, like the project name, I can click here and you can see the default workflow and other relevant information. And here are the custom fields that is visible to the guest user. But do note that as a guest user, you don't have the capability to add any activities. So you can only view them. Adding is not available for the guest user. So this is pretty much what guest users look like. So again, it is completely in your control who you want to add as a guest user, and the type of information that you want to share with them. So like, as an example, here you can add guest users to tasks and activities. You can assign guest or have custom forms available to guest users. You can share project snapshots and so on. Anytime they have any notifications, you can simply click on the bell icon there and you will see all the different notifications that you have received for the activities and tasks that you have been assigned to. Does anyone have any questions related to guest users? Okay, all right, so to conclude, I'll bring this down so you can see the information there. So to conclude, next week, we are going to review our SharePoint integration on Tuesday, October the 31st. And then October 25th, we are going to, we have a webinar that we'll be hosting on advanced reporting, which is business intelligence. And we will showcase the newest suite of reports that we have developed for our clients and how you can make the best out of it. So if you haven't registered already, please go ahead and do that because you don't want to miss out on the opportunity to learn what these reports are and how they can be utilized for your project management needs. Similar to our workshops, you can register for this webinar through our events page on the website. So the month of November, we will be going into, we'll break down these new business intelligence reports and take a look at them in sections. So for example, on November 7th, we are going to look at the project and portfolio reports that we have created and how you can utilize those for your day-to-day project management or project analysis requirements. All right, thank you again for joining. Thank you everyone for joining today's session. I hope you found our topic on guest users insightful. If you have any questions, any concerns, please feel free to send us an email at success@birdviewpsa.com. We also welcome your recommendations and suggestions for any future topics that you'd like us to cover. And again, they can be sent to our Birdview PSA email as well. I hope you have a great week and weekend ahead, and see you all next week. Thank you so much for joining. Bye.